Hello there and welcome back to my channel, or if this is the first video of mine you are seeing, then welcome. I have the beautiful Natasha Denona golden eyeshadow palette here. I will be including live swatches of this palette as well as 3 different looks. The look you're seeing here in my intro is look number 3 in case you're interested. I will have timestamps and everything for you below, but if you do want to see my thoughts on this palette, then let's go ahead and get started. At the time I'm filming this first look here, I have not full-on swatched this whole palette. It is really rainy here today. I want to film my swatches in natural lighting, so I'm going into this palette, well, sort of blindly. I let a random number generator pick out my shades. I did lightly swatch them on the back of my hand just to kind of get a reference for how I want to lay them out on my eyes, but this is such a beautiful palette, oh my goodness. So let's go ahead and get started on look 1. Okay, I'm going in with the shade Pana on a Sigma E24 brush. Now, when I swatched this shade on the back of my hand, it looked very, very light, but now I've already set my eyeshadow primer with like a skin tone colored eyeshadow, so I thought I'd just lightly run this into my crease just to kind of get me started a little bit. But this is a very light shade. Well, you know what, I can zoom you in a little more if that would make sense. So I don't know if this is even gonna really show up. Like, I got a little bit of texture right there from me setting my eyeshadow primer. That's not this palette. I have that happen a lot. I guess I really need to stop setting my eyeshadow primer. Actually, I kind of wonder if that was that shadow, simply because I've already set this side and it's not doing that. Watch that shade. Is this one of those cream shades? Yeah, it feels like a cream, so that makes sense why it's not laying so well over that powder. So I'm just going to finish just kind of buffing that out everywhere. But it feels like, now that I'm touching it more, it feels like one of those cream shades that she has, which I don't like that. In an eyeshadow palette, I want all powder. So let me just go ahead and apply it over here since I did do that on this side. Yeah, it's this shade it's reacting badly with the powder that I set my eyeshadow primer with, so I'm just gonna lightly pat that in. Okay, using that same brush, I'm going in with the shade Sandstone, and we're gonna try running that into the crease as well. Hopefully that'll kind of cover up what was going on with that first shade. Of course, that was probably more so me. I shouldn't have set my eyeshadow primer. I forgot that she has some of those cream formulas in these palettes. I wasn't thinking. That's okay, because I think this is laying over it pretty well from what I can see. I'll get in closer in a second and have a look. I want to blend this out first. That first shade would be better for maybe like a one and done. I think it might work better that way. Well, at least for someone with really light skin, because I feel like it really didn't want to show up on me. We're going to place that on this side. I picked up too much on the brush. Let me wipe some of that off. I'm just kind of running that shade, like diffusing it out all the way to my brow bone. This is definitely more of a warm tone palette, so I thought it would definitely be, you know, kind of cute to take it all the way up so it looks like you really have bronzy eyelids. Palette kind of makes me excited for beach. kind of thing. I don't know why. I mean, it doesn't really, I mean, well, sandstone, but I don't know. I just, whenever I see these really warm browns like this, I think of the sand at the beach. Yeah, that shade laid a lot nicer than that first shade. So, happy to see that. Okay, I'm going to use the same brush and I'm going in with the shade Teak. This shade just looks a little bit deeper than sandstone. Oh yeah, yeah. So then I press that shade out here, mostly keeping that pigment on the lash line, like right there, and then once I have most of that stamped out, then I work up towards the crease. Just kind of helps me blend. I don't want to put like too much pigment in my crease first because I feel like it's a little bit harder to blend out, at least for me. These are blending out really nicely. I'm glad to see that they are laying decently over that first shade that I used, because that did make my eyelid look a little bit textured, but that's more of a me thing than the palette thing. So I'm happy to see these are laying over really well. Okay, same thing over here. So easy to work with. It's one thing that I love about Natasha Denona's formula. Okay, and then I'm going to go in with the shade Cava. I'm just going to take that on my finger since I am having these short nails on. It'll be much easier to put this shade on my lid now that I have some short little press-ons. That's pretty. Ooh. Sometimes it is nice to have some shorter press-ons because you can do this, because usually I have to go in with a brush to be more precise. Wow, that shade is really pretty. Now I'm just going to go ahead and do the rest of my face, and I'll come right back and we'll do the lower lash line. Okay, I just went ahead and did this eye. I've just finished it up so I can just go ahead and show you what I did over here. I'm going to take the shade Oro on a Sigma E57. I guess that's the right way to say that shade name. It's O-R-O, and then I'm going to run that. Let me pick up a little bit more. Run that all along my lower lash line. Then I'll zoom out and I'll tell you what's on the rest of my face in just a second. Okay, and then once I get most of that pigment off, I'm just going to run it right in here, just a little. And there is look number 1 all done. And what's in my waterline is this pencil from ColourPop. This is the ColourPop BFF Crim Gel Liner, and this one's in Brouhaha. It's like a really deep, rich, almost black brown. Okay, I've just zoomed you out so I can just tell you right quick what's on the rest of my face. Now, I'm only talking about the primer because if you watched my video that went up this past Monday, then you will know that I was complaining about the Power Grip primers from e.l.f. And I mentioned about decluttering them. Well, I wanted to give the Jelly Pop one some more chances. So I did use that today, and the foundation I'm wearing today laid so much better over the top of this. I don't know if it's because I let this sit a little bit longer. I just lightly pressed this in. I didn't fully, completely set it in. I just kind of pressed it around a little bit and then I let it kind of dry in on its own. I don't know if that made a difference, but the foundation I'm wearing looks really nicely over this today. So I'm going to keep trying this out before I declutter any of them because I haven't done so yet. So I'm going to keep giving them some chances because I really want them to work. And for my foundation, I'm just wearing this one from Win Beauty. This is the Hydrating Skin Enhancing Tint SPF 30. Mine's in the shade Decisive 60. Now, I just like to apply this with my hands. I think it looks the best when you apply it that way, but that's what I'm wearing for foundation. And then I'm wearing the Win Beauty Concealer as well, and this one is in the shade, I think that's Make 15. I really like this concealer. It's just really lightweight. This shade's a little bit too light, but it kind of blends in pretty well. For my bronzer, I am wearing this one right here from Physicians Formula. This is their Mineral Wear Diamond Bronzer. This is a cream bronzer. This one's in the shade Bronze Gem. For highlighter, I'm wearing the Charlotte Tilbury Beauty Light one. This is, of course, in Spotlight. I just had a little mini here. It's a really pretty highlighter. And then for my cheeks and my lips, I'm wearing this product from Win Beauty. I think this is like the MVP product, and this one is in the shade Soar. I'm not wearing it full on the lips. I like to take just a little bit and then kind of blot it around with my fingers, so I'm not wearing it full on, but it's such a beautiful color. And there is look number 1, so let's go ahead and move on to look number 2. Okay, we have day 2 here of looks. I have my 5 shades that my random number generator picked out, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to take the shade, I don't know if they'd say Aria or Aria, but I'm going to take that on a Sigma E24. And I'm going to press that into my crease a little bit and then start kind of blending that out. I didn't pick up too much because I feel like this shade could probably be built up fairly well. Just want a little bit of this shade in my crease. I had no issues yesterday with longevity. Everything looked really nice at the end of the day, which I expected that. I never have any issues that way when it comes to Natasha Denona's palette, so I figured they would last all day, but I always like to mention it in case I notice anything odd. So far, so good. Do the same look over here. I know I used to do like look one and then sometimes I do look two on the other side, but I'm not really doing that anymore because I feel like it is kind of, while it does help as far as getting more looks out, I like being able to see the full completed look instead of just seeing it on one eye, so that's why I ended up kind of changing the way I do it. Okay, next I'm going to take the shade Aurum on a Sigma E54 brush. Okay, and I'm going to press this. It's a shimmer shade, but I'm going to press it out here. Let's see. This might not be as deep as I wanted it to be, but the only other matte shade that the generator picked out was the really deepest shade in the palette, which is Log, so I didn't really want to use that. That's a shade that for me I would more than likely use as like a liner, and the color of it, I probably could actually use it in my brows. Like the shade looks like it would be perfect for that. Of course, it did pull the shade Varis, I guess that's how you say all these names, and that might would have actually worked better, like to kind of add like a little bit of depth, but this is a really pretty shade. It's applying very well. I'm just going to go back with that first brush I was using and just make sure it's blended in here. I didn't spray my brush. This is just going in with the shade completely dry. Okay, using that same brush, I'm going in with the shade Aura. Actually, no, I'm going to use my finger. I forgot. I'm so used to having a little bit longer press-ons. Yeah, I'm going to use that. I could have technically have done that for the other shade, but that shade I did want to make sure was incredibly precise. Okay, I'm going to go in with the shade Fog on a small angled brush from e.l.f. Did I say fog? I meant log. I might have said fog. I don't know. I don't know which one I said now. It's log. L-O-G. And I'm just going to stamp that on my lash line. Not very much. Just enough to add some very subtle definition on this outer half at least. This is the way I usually typically wear deeper shades in palettes. I never normally wear them full on, it's just like a personal preference thing. And I'm just keeping this on the outer half of my lash line, like I'm not really bringing it all the way in. I just want, you can kind of see the difference here, just a little subtle definition. That shade goes on this way very easily. I noticed in the swatches, this shade did look a little slightly patchy, but I had the same problem with the deepest shade in the I Need a Nude palette, but on the eyes it performs beautifully, so this looks like it's performing the same way, really nicely on the eyes. I'm not struggling to get it to apply, and I'm picking up small amounts each time. So I'm going to finish the rest of my makeup and we'll come back and we'll do the lower lash line. I'm going to take the shade Varis on an E54 brush. I know I'm so far away, but this palette is wanting to reflect so badly. And I'm going to run that on my lower lash line all the way across. I'm going to pick up a little bit more. And while I'm doing that, I did actually use the shade Log in my brows and I really love it. It is a perfect shade for my brows, so that is definitely the way I would use that shade going forward. And here is look number 2, all done. Alright, zoomed you out and I'm going to tell you right quick what's on the rest of my face. And this is a beautiful lip combo, but I normally never wear shades like that, as dark as that. Normally I am definitely a nude person, like a soft light nude I should say, and boy that's bold, but it's beautiful. But the foundation I'm wearing is the Performer foundation from About Face. Mine is in this shade F2 Olive. Love this foundation so much. It has an olive undertone, so beautiful, which is something that I feel like you don't find a lot of, especially not in the fair category, so in love with this foundation. For concealer, I'm wearing this one from Fenty Beauty. This is the Wear Even Hydrating Concealer. Mine's in the shade 130W. For bronzer, I'm wearing the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer. This one is in the shade Fair. And then for kind of like my blush, and well, highlighter was also included, this is the Natasha Denona My Mini Dream Glow Blush, which just has, of course, the 2 shades of blush and then the highlighter. I just swirl my my brush in all three. And for the lips, I'm wearing the Tower 28 one-liner multi-liner in the shade Draw Me. And then for lipstick, this one's from ColourPop. This is one of their luxe lipsticks in the shade Aligned, which is this really beautiful deep shade. This come with their 1111 collection. I'm assuming they still sell these. I'm not sure. I don't know if they're limited edition, but that's what that shade is. So there is look number 2. So let's move on to look number 3. Okay, I'm going to take this shade right here. I'm not sure if you say that mliko or mliko. It's M-L-I-K-O, but I'm going to take this shade on my finger. Now, when I swatch this shade, it feels kind of like another one of those cream shades. So I'm going to take a little bit and I'm going to press that. Wipe some of that off. Press that all over the lid here. And what I'm going to do is just kind of use that as a base a little bit. I have applied some powder, mostly just in the crease part, so this isn't going to lay perfectly over this, but this is mostly just to kind of get a base down. It's not really anything else. And this is a Sigma E24. I'm just going to take that and kind of run around that a little bit. These are the only shades in this palette that I feel like have given me a little bit of trouble. Like, they just don't look that good on the eyes. I don't know. Alright, I'm going to try the other side with a brush. I'm going to pick it up with a brush and see how it does like that. Let's just see. Might do better. I'm just trying this out different ways. I mean, are these shades in the I Need a Nude? Because if they are, I feel like I don't have any issue at all in that palette. Okay, and using that E24, I'm going in with the shade Flesh. And I'm going to run that in the crease. Wipe some of that pigment off a little bit. I might have picked up too much. Then go back in and start blending that out. I feel like I can either be very heavy-handed or too light-handed. There's no in between. And I just like to blend that shade up, like all the way up to my brow bone. There's something about warm tones that I just like doing that. I know a lot of times they tell you to keep under your brow a little bit lighter to kind of like highlight, but for me, with these warm tones, I just really think of a bronzy kind of look. So I like taking them up all the way higher here. But there's not a lot of pigment there. It's mostly in this area, and then I just like to blend it upwards. Alright, I picked up a little bit more of that shade. I'm going to put that over here. I didn't pick up too much this time, just keeping it kind of more light, but I'm probably going to have to go in a little bit more just to get the pigment up to match the other side. And then I'm doing the same thing on this side, just going all the way up. Blending that up to the brow bone. Because I feel like, honestly, you could take some of these shades and do a one and done. Because this is normally where, you know, you could take like a bronzer all in this area. Or you can just use an eyeshadow with this kind of tone and looks like you have just a really nice bronzy look. Okay, I'm going to take the shade Alchemist on a Sigma E57. And I'm not going to spray my brush. I'm going to press this. We'll see how it does on its own first. I'm going to press it on this outer corner. And I'm also going to go on the inner corner too, but I want to press it out here first. Mostly what was left in the palette that the random number generator, or after I did the first 2 looks with the random number generator, the last 5 were mostly shimmer shades. But I want to make sure I was using every single shade in this palette just so I can feel like I can get a really good thoughts on it. That's why it took me a little bit longer to get this video up, because I wanted to make sure that I was able to take my time, do my live swatches, and do 3 different looks with this palette, wearing it a couple of days so I can really get a good thought on it. Place that in here too on this beginning half. I haven't done like a halo type of eye in a long time. I just really usually like my standard shade in the crease, sometimes a little bit of depth out on the outer half and then a shimmer on the beginning half, but you know, I figured I'd kind of change it up a little bit for this last look I'm doing. And then I'm going back in with that E24, and I'm just gonna make sure the edges of that are blended out really nicely. The shade would also probably work very well if you sprayed your brush with some setting spray, but I wanted to see what it could do by itself. But you definitely could probably build it up to be even more intense. Because it has nice, decent pigment dry, so it definitely would if you sprayed your brush. Okay, and I'm going to take Nubia on that E57 brush, and this time I will be spraying my brush with some setting spray. And that shade I'm going to place right here in the center. I really wanted that shade to pop because I didn't know if there'd really be much difference between this shade and that shade I used on the inner and outer corner. It's just a touch more brighter. And do the same thing over here, just patting that right in the center. Okay, I'm going to finish the rest of the face and I'll come back and do the lower lash line. Okay, I'm going to take the shade Fizzy on a Sigma E57 and I'm going to run that on this lower lash line. Now this is a very, very sparkly shade. I didn't wet my brush when I did it over here, so more than likely I'm going to have sparkle all over my face for the rest of the day, but I personally don't mind that. But just keep that in mind. You might want to spray your brush to kind of hold it in place a little bit longer because it is a very sparkly shade. Like, I have sparkle everywhere. Okay, and here is the third and final look. Okay, just right quick, what's on the rest of my face? I have the About Face The Performer Foundation in F2 Olive. For concealer, I'm wearing the Cali Ray Hideaway Brightening and Hydrating Under Eye Serum Concealer. This one is in the shade Pale Sun. For bronzer, I'm wearing the cream one from Saie. This is the Sun Melt Natural Cream Bronzer, and this one is in the shade Fair Bronze. For blush, I'm wearing one of the Patrick Ta Double Take blush duos, and this one is in Not Too Much. And for my lips, I'm wearing the Tower 28 one-liner multi-liner in Work of Art. I have that all over my lips, and then on top of that, I added the Lawless Forget the Filler Lip Plumping Line Smoothing Gloss in the shade Glazed. Yes, Glazed. Okay, but now that I have done 3 different looks with this palette, it is time to finally give my final thoughts on this palette, and I do really like it. I think it is an absolutely beautiful eyeshadow palette. If you really love warm tones, if you love Natasha Denona's formula, her palettes, I don't think you'd be disappointed with the palette. Now, I will say the shades mliko, I'm not sure how to say that, and then Pana, those were the only 2 shades that I really kind of struggle with, but I'm not a good representation of shades like that. I'm much more of a powder eyeshadow person when it comes to eyeshadow palettes. So when I say those 2 shades weren't my favorite in this palette, you know, take that with a grain of salt. Everybody is going to feel differently about that type of formula. Overall, I really do like the palette, and I love that shade Log, this deepest shade right here. I love that in my brows. I take just a small amount because it is really pigmented. I just take the smallest amount of that and run it through my brows, and to me it gives me like a really natural brow color. Like, it looks like my natural brow color. So if you have brows that are similar to mine and you have this palette, definitely consider trying that shade out when it comes to that. But overall, I do like the palette. I'm glad that I have it in my collection. Now, does it top my I Need a Nude palette? No. But I really don't think a palette is going to come along that's going to top that palette for me. I just really don't. But I do like this palette, and, you know, I don't think anybody be disappointed with it if they had it, if they love this type of look. I think it's nice. But I do hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, I hope you will please consider leaving a like, a comment, or subscribing if you haven't already. And hit the bell notification so you are alerted to all my future uploads, and follow me on Instagram at jessicadeerly, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!